Hello, Silence Speaks More, Kelly Adams. We're going to do a little discussion on bits, although there's thousands of bits made and used. We'll cover some of the basics until we find something that you're having trouble with, and we'll go into a further explanation with it. But what we've got here is a varying sizes and degrees of snaffles, okay? This is more of a hunter bit. It's quite large in the mouthpiece, okay? You can hang on this bit a little bit more, like pull on it, without bothering a horse's bars in his mouth too much. This is one that I prefer to use to just bit up a young horse that's never had a bit in his mouth before, okay? This is called an egg butt. You can see the shape of the ring on it, okay? But it's a copper bit, and it makes the mouth salivate, okay? It's got some weight to it, all right? So when you bit them up and you leave them stand in their stall so they get used to the weight and something new in their mouth, you want the mouth to stay moist, okay? Aluminum bits you'll find over your time. They'll dry a horse's mouth out real fast, and they get really, really uncomfortable. We don't have any here to show you what an aluminum bit is. That's how much I don't like them. We take them away from people sometimes when they bring horses in and they say, this is what we use, somebody recommended it. We take it away and normally just dispose of them. Okay, this is a D-ring bit, and again it's why they have, it's the rings. You can see it's shaped as a D. This is another D-ring bit, okay, a little rounder, but the same shape, same design. Okay, this is a stainless steel, and it's got a bend to it. You can see as it fits into the horse's mouth, it literally, this is where their tongue would be, in between my fingers here, and this would go over the bars of the mouth. Okay, it's a fairly mild snaffle. The smaller they are around, of course, now the more severe that a bit becomes. Okay, the bigger a bit is, the milder it is. It covers more space. That's where you get that version of mild versus severe. Okay, you can take any bit on this table. Now this is another little snaffle. Okay, and it's got a little bit less bend in it than what this silver one does, this metal one does, okay? So that's just a little difference, and it all comes down to some of this is personal preference. This is a Sweetwater bit. You buy these and they're all pretty and shiny, and then you hang them outside and they start to rust, okay? That keeps a horse's mouth soft. It causes them to salivate, okay? Now we get into a little more severe snaffles. This is a twisted wire, two wires wrapped together. Okay, it's got the same shape as the other one. Okay, it's got the little bend here. Okay, this is for a horse that, let's say, doesn't respond too well to a bit, likes to pull at you, wants to run away. There's various reasons that you would use this bit. Okay, this is a very severe twisted wire. It's got big round rings on it. The object of these round rings is so you can't pull it through a horse's mouth. Okay, this is a very severe bit, not to be used by just anybody. You don't just pick this up thinking, well, I'm going to fix this horse's problem by using something like this, unless you really know what you're up to. Okay, we'll get into another version of a snaffle. Now this is what they call a tom thumb. A lot of people will take a horse from a snaffle bit, okay, when they want to put him to start him toward the western bit. Okay, this sits here like so. Okay, your reins go down here, your chin strap will go here, and it becomes a leverage bit, but still the center breaks. Okay, so each shank is independent of the other. Okay, I don't prefer these bits, but Some people will swear by them, and that's fine. Everybody has their own opinion if this works for you. I don't believe in taking a horse that doesn't neck rein very well in a snaffle and trying to put him into a shank bit, a straight shank side bit. Okay, so this to me is a confusing bit to a horse, because as you're neck reining, as they come along, you literally switch your rein pressure. In a snaffle, if I wanted a horse to go right, okay, I would pull with my right rein and the pressure's on the right hand side. If I want to go left, you pull with your left rein and the pressure is on the left hand side of the horse's mouth. Okay, when you go into something like this and you're neck reining, okay, when you rein across, this rein comes in contact with your horse and you're asking him really to go left. Alright, so as you bring your rein across his neck, the cue you're using is the rein touching the side of a horse's neck. But then this bar and part of the mouthpiece still touches the way that a Snapple would. So you're basically, to me, you're giving them two opposing cues. Okay, so like I say, to me, that's not my favorite way to go. Okay, if a horse is ready to go into a Western bit, it's because he can neck rein well, even in a Snapple bridle. Okay, so that's again, it's personal preference. I prefer to take a horse when I start him in from a snaffle to a curb. This is my favorite little bit. Okay, we're going to talk about shank size here. All right, so the length of your shank from the center of your bridle, where your bridle fastens on, to where your reins fasten on. That's your shank. Okay, so this shank here is about 5 inches long. And that's your leverage, okay? Like your strength of your leverage is in your shank. Then you can take a bit like this. Now this is a show bit, but now this one's 7.5 inches long. So you can imagine you have more leverage when your chain is attached to the mouthpiece, and you pull, you have more leverage, okay? This bit here is an old walking horse bit, what they use. This is an 8-inch shank on this one. This is a very severe bit, okay? And again, not to be used unless you've got very soft hands and a very good horse to ride. At that point, you wouldn't need a bit like this, all right? The smaller you can keep your bits is the best rule of thumb. The smaller you can keep your shank and get what you want out of a horse, the better you are. It's easy to go up in shank size, so if your horse isn't responding to this small shank, let's say, or you're having trouble, if you go to a longer shank bit, right, like this one here, just in a comparison note, all right, it's hard to come back to this bit, okay, because you've already got them accustomed to this kind of leverage for control, okay, so you've already got them to this point where, you know, it takes this to control this horse. It's really hard to go back. It's better to spend an extra 2 weeks or a month or 6 weeks in a bit like this trying to overcome your problem than it is to jump into a bit like this, okay? So just as we go through this Horse Training Academy, we'll discuss the differences on why you're doing what you're doing, right? And why you want to avoid going to the next step as much as possible, all right? And this is a nice little Sweetwater bit. Now this is a beautiful old bit, probably handmade back in 1930, 1940, straight port. Somebody put a couple of little welds on the top of there, okay? but it's only about a 4-inch shank, not even. Yeah, it'd be a 4.5 inch shank. If you have a nice horse that works really well in the bridle, and you're just out, you know, kind of trail riding, and he's a nice calm horse, this is a perfect bit. You never have to go even up to this length of a bit, right? Let me see if I can show you these sides here a little better, folks. Hands right. See the difference in that? It's a straight shank bit, a little straighter than what this one is. This one's got a little curve to it. Okay, nice big ring, but it's an old Sweetwater. This is another steel bit, allowed to rust, so the mouth stays soft and salivates as you're riding, right? Okay. We go into some other ones here. English bits. Now this is what they call a Kimber Wick bit. They're used mainly with a chin chain, although you don't have to. You can buy a rubber cover that slides over the top of these chains, right? And you've got 2 places for your reins to go. So if you just want to start and pull fairly straight so the bit barely rocks, okay, you fasten your rein up on top. If you want to go to the next level, a little bit more pressure, okay, then you drop your rein down to the bottom hole. Okay, these are also driving bits. Okay, you see an awful lot of these in Europe on driving horses. If you ever watch anything on TV with the Queen and her horses and the, you know, things that they drive, you'll find an awful lot of these bits. This is also a Kimber Wick bit. These are both Kimber Wick bits. Okay, this is another version, and these are driving bits also. You can. Okay. Now this one you can have 2 reins, so you can pull straight back with this bigger rein, or a little bit down here, and this of course gives you more leverage. You'll oftentimes see a rein coming from here and from here and then joining together, and then you pull, and that gives you even pressure once you know how to set this up properly. Okay, now Kimber Wicks are hunter jumpers, right? Some dressage. These are quite popular with dressage horses. Okay, they're a nice bridle just to ride with. If you want to take these 2 rings off, it's virtually a Western bit. Okay, so as you go through all of these bits that you find and you look at and you're not sure what they are, okay, this is the shank of a bit, this is the mouthpiece, and this would be the port. Let me show you a better bit here. This would be the port, the part that goes up. A horse's tongue fits in here. This rests on the bars of his mouth, where there's no teeth back in about here on a horse. Okay, so these just lay in there. This goes over the top of his tongue, so he doesn't feel any pressure basically on his tongue. Okay, this is more of a arch shank bit. Okay, it kind of lays flatter in a horse's mouth. Your headstall comes up here, your chin chain fastens here, your reins fasten here. So this lays kind of flatter in a horse's mouth. So when you do start to pull, it's more of a leverage bit off the jaw, off of your chin chain or your chin strap, and off his bars. Okay, it doesn't come up to the top of his mouth. It doesn't never hit the top of his palate. Okay. This bit here, of course, now, this does hit the top of a horse's palate, the top of his mouth. Okay, straight shank. This one sets fairly straight. Your horse's mouth would come over the top of this bit like this. Your chin strap, leather or chain, reins down here, headstall here. But as you pull on this, you'll notice that copper piece up here. Okay, it does touch the top of the horse's mouth. okay? And the bars on the jaw, okay? And it is a leverage bit. These can be a very severe bit, okay? I like this bit belonged to an old Arabian stallion I had. And the reason we went to this bit is because he played with his tongue a lot. And you'll notice there's a roller in here. I'm sure you can hear that, okay? But he used to get his tongue up over the top of a bit. Okay, now he came to us fairly well spoiled. He was pretty wild little horse to ride at first. But this was the only bit that I could get that was high enough that he couldn't get his tongue over the top. So once he realized he couldn't get the tongue over the top of it, he had something to play with, then he would relax his tongue and kind of leave it alone. And then eventually he got to where he wouldn't hardly play with his roller. Okay. So the reason that this bit, it looks severe, but depending on the reason you use it. Okay. Like, we didn't use it to rip his head off or break his face, right? It was just so he couldn't get his tongue over the top. There was no way to put the bit up high enough in his mouth that he couldn't get the tongue up over the top. If a horse gets his tongue over the top of a bit, of course you can imagine, if you pinch a horse's tongue between the top of his mouth and the top of this port, right, the damage you could do, all right? So in order to rectify by not hurt, so I couldn't hurt him by pinching his tongue to the roof of his mouth, we went to a bit that he couldn't get his tongue over. So that alleviated that problem. So when you see bits like this, understand there's reasons for them. And you know, you don't just look and say, oh geez, that's a severe bit. Depends on the reason and the person using it, okay? There isn't a bit made in the world, even this little Kimber Wick here, all right? If you wanted to hang on a horse's mouth and pull on him and rip and tear, this is the most severe bit you'll ever find in a person's hand that's being mean with it or vicious with it, okay? This twisted wire Snapple here, yes, it looks like a very severe bit, but if a horse has been held too much or pulled on too much constantly, the bars of his mouth go real soft, or it's real hard, I'm sorry. Okay, you take a Snapple like this and you ride him and, you know, he can feel this, right? So then you have to use it hardly not at all for him to feel the pressure. Then you slowly go back to this kind of a bit, right? But you have to go to an extreme so he can feel it in order so he can come back and be soft in a bit like this. Okay, now there's some other bits we'll show you. This is a mule bit. Now this is a terrible bit. We've acquired this one. I don't know if you can see this. It's like a chainsaw blade, and you can see the ridges in it. Okay, and literally this fits in the bars of a horse's mouth. And in this case, this is designed for mules. I've ridden mules. They have a mouth kind of like a rock, all right? You don't make them bleed with this bit. You don't do anything, but they do feel it. And it's not, you would not use this on a horse that wasn't completely spoiled, and you're kind of the last chance they have before they end up being sold to slaughter because they're just out of control. Okay, these are all tools, all right? In any trade, you see, if you're a mechanic, you have multiple wrenches, all right? If you're a housewife, you don't own one pot or pan, or unless you're someone like me that has one frying pan, and you burn everything before you eat it anyway, so it really doesn't matter what you got for your arsenal of tools. But these are tools. And if it comes down to a horse either having to go to slaughter or me trying to fix them with this bit, I'll fix them with this bit. Okay, that's the alternative. Before you go to a bit like this, you make damn sure this is the last resort you ever going to do. Okay,
And if you've gone this far and you did this, this is your fault. Okay? Be honest with yourself. You ruined this horse. If you have to go to this, you have ruined that animal. Okay? And then you're going to bring him to somebody like me, and then we either have to save that horse's life by getting them over this stuff, or you have to sell them to a meat person, because they'll never leave this barn to be sold to an inexperienced person that's unknowing of what's coming. That's how people get hurt with horses, okay? You'll find I'm very adamant about this, all right? Another severe bit, and I've used these. Don't kid yourself, folks. I've used these. This is a bicycle chain, Snapple. Actually, this is a bicycle you'd never pedal. This is an 80 gauge chain off a drive motor, okay? Yeah, this is much less severe than that Mule Bit, but this does work on the bars of a horse's mouth, okay? And I've had people bring me horses where they've hung on them and just hung on them and hung on them and hung on them, and then the horse has no feelings in his mouth whatsoever. He just runs away. Doesn't matter what you do. He doesn't have a want to be rode anymore. You can take this bit, and within a week, I can bring that horse back to being in a regular Snapple, let's say this size. All right, and I've done it. All right, and they're good horses, again. But it takes somebody, you've done this to this one. All right, it's not me that did that. Right, and a lot of people go, oh, he's so mean, he's so cruel. When you look at somebody and they're doing something like that, if you ride a horse with vengeance in your heart, like you're mad and you go to this bit, you're a damn fool. And we won't do business with that kind of a person. Never have, never will. All right? But if you bring me a horse and let's say you bought him at an auction or you bought him from somebody and you had no idea that this horse had a mouth like a piece of steel, okay? You go to this for a week or two, I can put him back in that bit within the third week, and he'll be a nice riding horse for you. Once again, if you can't get him past that problem with this bit, he ends up being in a meat can someplace. And somebody did that. That horse wasn't born completely ignorant. He was not born with a mouth like iron. He was trained to do that. All right? He was conditioned to do that. All right? Here's some other bits that we would never use here. Okay? Now this is quite the contraption. I bought at an auction of a 4-H horse. Okay? This is your chin strap. This goes higher under a horse's mouth than where a chin strap goes, literally up on his jaw. This is a double twisted wire, or a twisted wire Snapple on a slide, on a leverage here. Okay? So the more you, and then this is a steel bar over the top of this contraption. Okay? So your horse's nose goes through here, his mouth goes through here, and this is under his upper jaw, all right? And as you pull this back, the chain makes contact under the jaw, the steel bar comes down over the nose, and then this damn twisted wire slides up and down and really cinches him off. And that's a bear trap bit, all right? Again, if you have a horse that you've got to this point, you find this in barrel racing, in gaming horses, all right, and some cow penners, ropers will use bits like this because they've got their horse so bloody out of control that this is the only thing they can use to stop. Okay, did that horse do that? No, that horse had nothing to do with that. Somebody pushed him, took him too far, too fast, without putting the stopping on. Okay, I don't mean to stop, to stand still. When a horse gets going and he's excited, it's a lot like us. Right? We're pumped to go do a job, right? Like an athlete, right? You go in and you do your job, you pump for that job, you give it your all. When you come off that field or out of that sporting event, we know how to shut off. We're not going to walk down the street and start tackling people because we're football players, right? We don't go in a bar and pick a fight if you're a wrestler or a boxer, right? We know how to shut off. We have to train our horses how to shut off, okay? If you're in a gaming event, if you're roping or whatever, okay, yeah, the excitement's there and your horse is all pumped up. Teach them how to shut off and relax and walk away. And just walk away and go do something. Go walk, jog, lope, whatever. Do something completely different till it relaxes. Teach them to relax and then go back. A lot of these guys, they do, that's all they do. They practice speed, speed, speed. They'll relax. So finally you get a horse, somebody goes off to college or they don't like this horse anymore, they sell it at an auction or to a private person. Oh yeah, I've rode him for years, he's great. If this is what you're riding him in, don't sell him to somebody that's green. Don't sell him to somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, right? They can't handle it, okay? Now this is a mechanical Hackamore story, folks. I kind of stepped ahead there. This is a mechanical Hackamore part with a mouthpiece. There's another one here. This is a mechanical Hackamore. Now these are wonderful things. Okay, your horse's muzzle goes through here, chin strap, flat bar. This is just a piece of leather, just a soft piece of leather. Okay, no metal in there whatsoever. Okay, see, it's got the chin strap. Your reins go down here. Head's all you can see. And this just pulls back. This is a hard bit to use all by yourself, so I'll hang it here. And this just bends up, right? And basically your pressure is on the nose part and under the jaw. If you're just going for a nice trail ride or just a pleasant day, a horse can eat with this, right? He can munch grass, he can chew, he can drink water, everything's out of the way. It's just perfect. Awesome ride. Well, I used to ride with an old uncle of mine. He never was much for putting a horse in a bit. These were his choice because, yeah, you could climb off, fix a fence, a horse could wander around and eat and graze with these. Right? If you stepped on the bridle rein, or on your rein, big deal. He's not pulling on his mouth. He's only pulling on his nose, right? Perfect bridle for anything like that, trail bridle. Still, you have to train your horse to get to this kind of pressure, okay? And this is just another little Snapple. Again, I like this one. This is a D ring, bigger ring. I don't know if you can see that in this video. Put it down on the table here maybe. There's copper pieces inlaid in that mouthpiece, and they just go like so. It's very tiny ridge, not even a 1/16 of an inch ridge there, okay? Nothing that would really hurt your horse, but it does give him a feeling, a sense of feel to it. But it's nice copper on the inside, right? It's steel on the outside, and that's why it's already starting to rust here. That's the idea. But as you turn it over, this is an inlay of steel that doesn't really rust that way, but the copper does help them salivate too. Okay, these are nice bits. Most of these bits you'll find are 5 inches. Okay, and what I mean there is it's a 5-inch mouthpiece from here to here. Okay, and then they just fold up into a horse's mouth. These are also, you can get these at 5 inches. Okay, if you're using something like a POA, Pony of America, okay, you'll go to a pony bit, and they'll go down to 4 inches, okay. If you're going to a cob, which is a regular horse, is what they call a cob, okay, that's where you get 4.5 to 5 inch. Okay, so the next piece of tack that I'd really like to discuss is a Cavesson, okay. Now, this is a piece that just goes over the horse's ears, over his muzzle. Now, when you
first start to bit up a young horse, okay, you'll notice he wants to open and close his mouth a lot. Okay, this goes under the jaw. You just put this on. You don't have to have this real tight the first time or two, okay? All it does is it teaches them that there's some resistance when they drop the lower jaw, okay? So he's going like this. You put this on, and there's a limit there. Basically, it just teaches your horse that he can't just drop his face away. So when you start to ride him, okay, by this time you have this not overly tight, you know. You don't have to cinch it on him really tight, but do make it so if he goes to drop his lower jaw, there's some resistance there. This piece, if you're in a Snapple, okay, should be fairly close to the cheekbones, those bones on the side of a horse's face, okay? Make sure you've got at least 3 inches, if your horse is long-faced, between this and the Snapple, so when you pull on the Snapple, there's no way this can pinch his lips, okay? Because if you do, then you're creating a whole nother problem, okay? And but you do see an awful lot of people, and they'll try and start horses without these. And what you get is a horse that, of course, he's gonna try and get away with the least amount of pressure. So as you're starting to apply a little bit of pressure you want him to give to the bit, he'll just open his mouth, all right? That's not what you want to teach your horse to do. Okay, what you want to teach him to do is keep his mouth closed and quiet and give to that bit, okay? So basically, without any real effort, you're putting just a little obstacle in his way by putting this on his mouth, okay? Now, what we're going to do on our next videos here, folks, is we're going to go ahead and apply this stuff out in the barn, show you how it really works, okay? And we'll do our groundwork and explain how all this stuff kind of makes a big circle, okay? So when you come out at the end product, how all these tools work. Of course, some of these bits I've showed you, I pray to God you never have to use, okay? And you should never use them. Okay, there's a nicer way of training horses than just the old cowboy get on and ride type thing. Most of you can't do it. I don't even want to do it, okay? But basically, through this video series, we're going to teach you how to use these tools properly. We're going to teach you how to take a horse from scratch, so you could do your own horses, but not necessarily just your own, okay? There's always somebody, horse people hang around with horse people, right? So as you learn things, you're going to help other people with them. You'll learn from their horses, you'll learn from your horses. You'll just basically spread your knowledge, but you'll gain all this knowledge back by working with more than one horse, more than one person. So basically, if you like this kind of information, I'd really appreciate it if you'd click on the like button at the top and leave us your name and your email, and we'll hook you up to this. It's a fascinating world. You can make a living at it if you really want to pursue it, or you can just enjoy the heck out of it. Okay, folks, this is Silence Speaks More, but if you're interested, please sign on, and we'll take you on a wonderful journey. It's pretty simple if you get to know it all. Okay, thank you kindly, folks. Goodbye.